Hello, and welcome to Everybody's Business. My name is Will Boland, and I'm your host today. We have a special program today with the regular host of Everybody's Business, and this is Valerie Hellerman to my far right here.
Hi.
She led a trip to Samos, Greece on a refugee project, and we're going to talk about that today with two of the people that are also with her. To her left here is Karen Cooper, who did massage work there as a therapist. And to my right here is Charlotte Henson, who provided medical support for the team. So these are the three people with Hands on Global to this latest trip in Samos, Greece, working with refugees. And we want to welcome everybody here and hope you enjoy the program. Val, could you start us off with just a general update of the trip itself?
Okay, so Hands on Global, this was our fourth trip to the refugee camps in Greece, and this was our second trip to Samos Island. On Samos Island, I was there last February and March of 2019, and there were 4,000 people. When we went October and November. One camp, 4,000 people. The camp was built to house 650 people. Outside the camp in the overflow area is a jungle, and that's where the majority of people are living.
Could we revisit those numbers again?
Yeah.
You said the camp was built for 650 people.
650 people. There are about 1,000 people living in there now, so very crowded inside the camp. Outside the camp, on the hillside, called the jungle, there's close to 7,000 people.
7,000
7,000 people, and people are arriving every day. The other camp, which we did not go this year, we did this year, but not this trip, is on Lesbos Island, the Moria camp. The Moria camp was built to house 3,000 people. It now has close to 18,000. So what this shows us is that the refugee crisis is continuing big time. Huge amounts of people. There's been over 10,000 people that arrived just this summer. A few days before we were leaving Samos Island, 7 boats of Kurds had arrived on the island.
So is it every day? Is it constant every day?
It's constant. It's not necessarily every day. Like on some days there's 7 boats arrive with 500 people. Another day maybe there's 2 boats or 1 boat, and the next day not a boat. The Aegean is being patrolled by the Coast Guard of Turkey. If Turkey finds these boats, it sends them back to Turkey, and the people are then put in jail for a period of time.
What about the Greeks?
The Greek islands, Greece, with all its economic problems, has not closed its borders. So people can arrive on the Greek islands, and they're brought to refugee camps or outside of the refugee camps, the overflow areas.
Could you explain, before we get much further to the audience, what Hands on Global is and how you found yourself in such a dire situation?
So Hands on Global is a Helena-based nonprofit, and we basically do medical camps in, underdeveloped places in the world. We have a project in Zanskar, India. 2 years ago, we were asked to come to Greece to respond to the refugee crisis. We were asked by this Medic Healing Council that was from Standing Rock days. And they sent out an SOS saying that they needed help, they needed medical support in these islands. And so we put a team together and we went, and we've continued to go. And I want to say that these 2 women here have been Karen in particular has been, this was your 3rd trip to Greece? Third trip working with refugees, and Charlotte was her 1st trip. And we depend on volunteers. Karen does amazing massage work. I mean, we're giving out pills, and we're giving out, taking care of wounds and trying to help people with their medical problems, but she's giving the loving touch of massage. We call her clinic the Hug and Rub Clinic. And Charlotte, I'm going to let you ladies speak for yourselves, but Charlotte was, on her first trip, an amazing, seamless fit into our team of 15, were there?
15.
there were 15 of us, and Charlotte was medical support along with one other woman, Nancy, and boy, did we need them to do just about anything. And you can talk about what all those anythings were.
Could you fill out the update a little bit more, and then I'd like to hear from you ladies about your impressions and your participation. So what did you hope to do, and what did you do?
So we set up a mobile clinic. We had several tents, big tents that you could stand up in that had several rooms. We brought a massage table and an exam table, and then we had our equipment, and we had pharmacy, 2 pharmacies, a pediatric pharmacy and an adult pharmacy in the trunk of 2 cars. And we'd pull up every morning, open the tent, get the table set up, and start seeing patients, of which we saw an average of like 70, sometimes about 70 a day, sometimes more, I don't think ever less.
So focus on medical, but also then on things like massage, which becomes a little metaphysical. Could you talk about that, Karen? What did you see your role as arriving, and did you feel successful in that?
You know, I knew some of the people from Hands On Global from my trips to Zanskar, and they talked about Greece and they talked about the refugees, and I had read a little bit about it. But selfishly, I wanted to go to Greece the first time because I had backpacked through Greece back in the 80s, and I had a backpack on. But I had read about refugees who were coming across the channel, coming across from Turkey with just their possessions in their pockets, with a backpack, maybe a black plastic bag. And I couldn't believe that. I didn't think that was real. And so I agreed to go with Valerie and her crew. And I'm amazed, astonished of what the conditions were. And that, yes, it is true that these people travel unknown across deserts and mountains and into Turkey, and then they go in the dead of night to go across to Greece. And they experience torture. They come from war-torn conflict, politics. They come from civil war. And you meet these people face to face, and you look at them and you just embrace them with compassion and with love, because they're human beings. And the reality of the backpack became so real to me. And
as in, that's all they have left of their life.
That's all they had. They were contemporary people. They were educated people. They were farmers. But that's all they had. They had their children at their side. There were hundreds of families and children. And so you come face to face with that realization and that reality. And yeah, you meet them.
I tend to think of them as poor and uneducated. I guess a lot of us do. Refugees, you think that there's a reason for that, but you're saying that some of them are well-educated, moneyed doctors that are on the run.
There were a world moving on the run, and yes, that was my impression exactly. I thought that they were just people that were poor and uneducated, and we met people who worked in the military that were high up. We met psychologists, teachers, I mean, every profession, basic farmers. But getting back to the daily clients or patients that Valerie sent to me, she would sit at the front desk and hear their story. They would come to me and I would put them on the massage table, and sometimes that was the first time that they had laid on foam rubber where they could relax.
Since they left their homes?
Since they left their homes, because they're living in tents, they're living on the ground, they're living on cardboard, and they would relax, some of them. I gave them pillows because they didn't have pillows. And I just was there with them. I don't know how much treatment I gave them, but I opened my heart. And that was my job.
some of these cultures, especially I would think the Muslim cultures, would not be quite as open. I mean, maybe even in Africa, the massage therapy is still foreign to them. Did you find any resistance to that, and did they open up to that? And then how much success did you have on alleviating pain? Or, I mean, you see where I'm going with all these questions. Did you want to alleviate pain? What was your primary objective? Were they responsive to it? How successful were you? Because I think massage would be quite foreign in some cultures.
Some of it is, but I was surprised how they really opened up to it. Now, some more than others. I mostly did clothed therapy, where you work through the clothes, you work through the black outfits that the women would wear. Some of them, and I would ask if they could pull up their skirt in order to work on their arthritic knees. Some of them would allow me, some wouldn't. Some allowed to take their socks off, some wouldn't. So it varied with their acceptance, but I had to read them. I had to really allow them to settle in and to see what I could do. Some I could just massage their hands. That's it. I could do some cranial sacral, which helped to calm their spine with touch through the neck. And most of them wanted to come back.
And this was one of our only options for PTSD. And it's not actually post-traumatic stress, it's continued traumatic stress. So these people are continuing to go through the terrors of their situation. And, you know, we couldn't give any psychiatric meds. They're just not allowed in the camp. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But our only option was to send them to Karen for some love and, you know, healing touch.
With a group called Hands On Global, I see that this is there's no more hands-on than that in Global.
I fit very well into the
that's
organizations
remarkable.
because, you use your hands and your heart. Yes.
Charlotte, this was your first time there, so you probably have even different impressions because it might have been a little overwhelming at times. How did you see your role? What were your impressions, and how did you make that work for yourself?
I did a number of things. I had that international driver's license, so I drove people to the clinic, into a different clinic and the hospital. And I also picked up medications from the pharmacies. I went for clean water. We didn't have clean water where we were, and that was something that everybody that came was happy to have the clean water. I also passed out cookies. I counted out pills for the pharmacies in the cars. I picked up trash. I put Band-Aids on people's owies.
How valuable is all that?
So much. It's incredible.
I did feel useful. That was really good.
What were your impressions of the camp then, generally being new to you, your first time experience?
Pretty much what you expected, but with what little they had, people were clean when they came into our clinic. I don't know what I thought, that people wouldn't be able to keep themselves clean, but when they have one tap for water for hundreds of people, it was amazing how nicely they kept themselves, and many of them, their camps were nicely kept and organized and clean. So that was my first impression there.
There must have been other NGOs working with clean water then, as long as Hands On Global. Was there more of a general team, and who would coordinate? In 7,000 people, it just seemed, was there coordination?
It's really interesting. On Moria, on Lesbos Island, the Moria camp has a lot of NGOs working, and that's where there's 18,000 people. On Samos, there's very few NGOs. Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, we call it MSF, was there, and they were the ones who had put, it was like a fire hose through the camp with certain valves that you could open. And it was interesting because it was fresh, clean water, but the people in the camp didn't trust the water. And when we went up to see it, I came back and I would say to them, the water's good. It's the same water we're drinking in the town. But that's it. And every day they were given a 2-liter bottle of water. So that was their water supply, limited for sure. So the other NGOs, there was another medical clinic there that we had worked with last March called Mediquali. They're out of France. And that's it for medical. That's it. Doctors Without Borders, MSF, is there doing only pregnant women and some STD, sexually transmitted disease treatments. It's totally unmanageable, the healthcare system there. I mean, there's way too many people. There's one camp doctor who happens to be a microbiologist who, after we were there a couple of weeks, was sending us referrals. You know, we're like, who is this? Dr. Manis. Oh, isn't he the camp doctor? He said, dear Hands on Global, please take care of this patient. We're like, what do we do with this?
It feels to me, just listening to you, overwhelming. And I see that you have, you're wearing something that says SOS. I mean, that's a cry for help, SOS.
Right. Right.
What is that?
This is one of the products that Hands on Global promotes in order to a fundraiser, so we can raise money, because we need money to buy the medicines and the supplies that we need. I had a massage table, which was like I was in the Ritz, as opposed to kneeling on the ground in the gravel.
Which you did on your first
which
trip.
I did on my first trip. And this is made out of the life jackets that the refugees used to cross the sea to the islands. And
Made by the refugees themselves?
no, we made them here, or
Okay.
the crew in California made them,
Okay.
and tore them apart. Because they take all of the life jackets, throw them onto the beach when they disembark on the boats, and it's just a graveyard. It's just an amazing picture and sight. But the gals went in and got the life jackets, make products out of them, and this is just one. And this just brings attention to our efforts and what Hands on Global is trying to achieve. It is overwhelming, I must say. And Charlotte said their feet were clean. That's what I found. Is no
feet
matter
were
their
clean.
feet were clean, and I have no idea how they did that. But they would come and I would massage their feet. I would put on a compression sock or a compression neoprene for their knees, or a back brace. That's what I could do. But so we need to continue the effort. We need products. I need lotions. We need pills. We need, and so this is just one way of promoting our efforts.
And you can buy it on our website now. We have an e-commerce page. You can buy these flowers. Charlotte has one on from one of the blue life jackets. And might I almost add, in taking these life jackets back, we have to take them apart. There's cardboard. There are no flotation devices inside this canvas. So these people are crossing the Aegean
With a fake life.
with a fake life jacket.
The whole, we're almost out of our 20 minutes already, which is very sad. It goes so quickly. But I mean, it is a sad story. I can't help but feel that. We talk objectively, but I don't see any emotion that I carry away than just deep sorrow. I really admired you going over and being in that arena. And I'm not sure, with only 1 minute, the question would be, and I'm not going to have time for everybody, but maybe you, Val, how do you bear with that?
It's really difficult. I think all of us cry a lot. We've come home. I know Karen and I have cried on the phone over coffee, have Facebooked our tears.
Yeah.
The way to work there is to stay focused on the task, because that's how you can help these people, is to stay focused on what you're there to do and to stay present. And my job was doing triage. So I would talk to every person who came into the clinic and ask them if I could help them and what their problem was. And so that would lead to how did you hurt your back, or how is your back injured, which could lead to them telling me about being a victim of torture or about their sexual violence that happened to them. And I would find it really difficult sometimes to stay focused, but it was like a chant in my head: stay present, stay focused, stay present, stay focused. And every once in a while I'd just get up and have to shake it off. I think we all did that.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I would meet Karen on this path between 3 tents saying, I've got a VOT for you. Like just grabbing her wrist, going,
VOT?
victim of torture. Or, Charlotte would be with me and I'd say, oh, take care of this guy, get him, something. Sorry. It's like a grabbing. I mean, it is. It's like,
It's an impulse.
we just hold on to each other to do it.
Wow. Well, we're out of time today, and it went way too fast. Maybe we can talk about this
We'll come
again.
back.
I certainly personally admire you greatly for doing what you do, and I'd like to make a plea to everybody in the listening community to, Hands On Global is online, and they do have e-commerce now, and you can see the money will go to a remarkable effort.
And PayPal.
And PayPal too. So go online and support these people as much as you can. And we thank you for tuning in today for Everybody's Business. Good day.